Good morning. We've had a couple of false starts, but I'm trying again. I don't know what's wrong. Maybe the cold air makes the signal go down. I don't know. I live in a small town, and it doesn't take anything. It doesn't take much of anything for the reception to be weird. I mean, I've had to go to the cafe and to the library and other places for some reason. But anyway, we are in the book of Jeremiah. We finished up with chapter 11. We'll start chapter 12. Uh, we had a great weekend. Uh, there were some sad parts to it, of course. We did the funeral for our friend Patrick's son, and Andrew, and that was an experience. And I played the fiddle. A lot of people there, who don't believe in God, and we tried the best that we could to be a Christian witness to those good people, that they would come to know Christ. Um, so we made it through yesterday, got through the teaching Saturday night at the Victory Square. Yesterday was a lot of fun. We had church and dinner day at Galena First Baptist, and then last night I was at Full Gospel Church for the last time this year. I don't think it's the last time because we still have a lot of stuff that Pastor James, and I want to talk about in our panel discussions. Last night we talked about God leaving himself a witness during the Great Tribulation. And that went on for over an hour and a half. It's on YouTube. You can just go to my channel on YouTube. You can look at last night's episode. We'll probably resume it again after the first of the year. Tonight I got an association party to go to. Tomorrow we go to Tulsa. Dr. Adrian and I, and then we're taking Pastor Josh Akins, the associate pastor at Ozark Full Gospel. He's going to bring his guitar, and we're going to go to John 3:16, which is one of my favorite places on earth, and we will minister and bring the gospel and some music and hopefully some comfort to a couple of hundred at least homeless men and women who have come to the shelter for succor and supper. I hadn't thought about that. Anyway, we had another busy week here. And but the best thing on my schedule is this morning I'm going to go pick up one of my rental grandchildren. I don't have any of my own, but my youngest son's best friend, who kind of grew up in my kitchen, he has 5 children, aged 7 through 20, and I go grab one of them every Monday, and we go out to breakfast or lunch, whatever they want to do. So I'll have fun this morning. I hope he wants to go to Rosie Joe's. I'll try to cajole him into getting a pancake or something. That way I don't have to go to McDonald's. I can go to Rosie Joe's where my friends are. Show off the kid. Jeremiah. We finished up chapter 11 Saturday morning. And I will just read the last part of that and bring us up to chapter 12. In verse 21, Jeremiah says, "Thus saith the Lord of the men of Anathoth that seek thy life." This is God talking to Jeremiah. "Prophesy not in the name of the Lord This is what the men of Anathoth have said to Jeremiah. "Therefore, thus saith the Lord of the men of Anathoth that seek thy life, saying, Prophesy not in the name of the Lord, that thou die not by our hand. Therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, Behold, I will punish them. The young men shall die by the sword, their sons and their daughters shall die by the famine, and there shall be no remnant of them. For I will bring evil upon the men of Anathoth, even the year of their visitation." He's just telling Jeremiah that he's going to take care of all the people who are trying to kill him, and he's going to protect Jeremiah. Now, we're in the middle of the third recorded sermon. It is actually the second sermon if you go in chronological order, but it's printed in the book third for some reason known only to God himself, because he is the one who wrote and preserved these scriptures through the hands of holy men who are led by the Holy Ghost. And so there is a reason he wants this to be third and not in chronological order. The first sermon was when King Josiah was king, the good King Josiah. The second sermon was at the end of Jehoiakim's reign, possibly at the beginning of Zedekiah's reign. The third sermon is actually 2 or 3 years after King Josiah has died in battle with the Egyptians. And Jehoiakim is king, but early in his reign. So I don't know why they're out of order, but God does. And so we will take them in the order that they're written and just bring up certain things so that you will know the time of these events. Jeremiah is talking to God right after God promises to take care of all his enemies and protect him. He says there will be no remnant of them. I'll bring evil upon them. I'm going to punish these men that are trying to hurt you. That's what God promises Jeremiah. So we're still in the same message that he is preaching. And Jeremiah begins chapter 12 with, "Righteous art thou, O Lord, when I plead with thee." He's thanking God for hearing him and for understanding his plight and for saying that he's going to do something about it. "Yet let me talk with thee of thy judgments." I've been wanting to talk to you about this for a long time, God. Will you hear me out? And he says quite a few things here. It goes on for about 13 verses with Jeremiah talking to God and asking questions and making his own assumptions. He says, "Wherefore doth the way of the wicked prosper? Wherefore are all they happy that deal very treacherously?" In other words, why do bad people do good? He frets over this. And I think about Psalm 37. Psalm 37 is one of my favorite Psalms. There's so much in it. Of course, we always go to Psalm 37 for, delight thyself also in the Lord, and he shall give thee the desires of thy heart. But there's a lot more to it than that. And in the first verse, David writes, "Fret not thyself because of evildoers." He had plenty of evildoers around him. "Neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity." The bad people don't covet their gold and their silver and their ill-gotten gains. When I think about the rich people in the United States, especially the ones you see on the news, and they're crazy because instead of doing something for society, the richest guy in the world, flies a spaceship up and charges people to ride on it. This is just the rich guy's rich grown-ups version of a rich kid having a miniature train at his birthday party to ride around the grand lawn on. Don't be envious against the workers of iniquity. Do not want what wicked people have, because they got it by raping and killing and stealing from other people. That's how they got rich. "For they shall soon be cut down like grass." Now, I'm talking about in David's day. We don't rape and steal and kill now. We only do it financially. We hurt people in business. It's a different kind of war. But in David's day, the way people got rich is they killed you and they took what you had. That's how people got rich back then. It was they lived by the sword. They lived by the sword. Fret not thyself because of evildoers, neither be thou envious against the workers of iniquity. For they shall soon be cut down like the grass, and wither as the green herb. Now don't worry about them. So what are you supposed to do if you don't worry about them? Verse 3, trust in the Lord and do good, and so shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. Don't worry about the wicked people, Jeremiah. But God is going to let him speak on. And I know that I would be acting the same way if everybody I knew was trying to kill me and I had to hide and then go out in public and speak and then hide again. Now, that hasn't happened to me yet, but it might before it's over. Verse 2, chapter 12 of Jeremiah, thou hast planted them, Lord. Yea, they've taken root, they grow, they bring forth fruit. Thou art near in their mouths and far from their reins. These wicked people are getting richer and richer and richer, and Jeremiah's watching it. And he says that God is near to their mouth. They're talking about God. They're worshiping. They're talking about the will of the Lord. They're talking church talk. They're saying, oh, I'm blessed. And brother, let me pray for you. And, all this weird old church talk. I've hated it all my life. I think it's phony baloney. Speak English to people. Talk about real things. When you go talking Bible talk and church talk to people who are lost, they think you're crazy. Stop it. Speak English, or whatever your language is. But speak plainly. God spoke plainly. When you come off to someone with a King James Version answer, and they don't even understand the difference between thou and thee, what will you gain? What will you gain? Show them that you read the Bible. You think it matters to them? Speak English. But these people that God was near their mouth, it was a public worship. We've already gone through 11 chapters where God has condemned their worship because they're just doing it for show. Well, Jeremiah's saying these evil people are doing it for show. The word of the Lord is on their lips. They're saying God this and God that. But God is far from their reins. What do you do with the reins? You drive the horse. You see, they're running wild instead of letting God take the reins and guide them and let him steer them and let them be in submission to the master. So they speak a good game, they talk a good game, they say, Lord, 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 but then as Jesus says, you don't do what I say. Why call you me Lord, Lord, and do not what I say? They were calling him Lord, Lord, and doing not what he said. Verse 3, but thou, O Lord, Jeremiah's complaint continues. The title of this chapter should be Jeremiah's Complaint. But thou, O Lord, knowest me. You know me, God. I'm good old Jeremiah. Oh Lord, in case you hadn't noticed, I'm right here doing everything you told me to do. Yep, here I am. I'm doing good. It does. When you blow your own horn, it's hard to claim humility. Good morning, Charlie. Good morning. We had a fine time last night, didn't we? But thou, O Lord, knowest me. You know me, Lord. Thou hast seen me. Oh, you not only know me, you've seen all the good stuff I've done. You marked it down on my report card. People in all ages, when they complain to God about what other people do to them, I've done it myself. Hey, look what you did for that guy. What am I, chopped liver? I went through this when Harold Stanley died. Uh, we were working together. He was working at revivals for me. I first met him. I was doing a tent revival in Reed Spring. He was a member down at Cape Fair, and he got involved, and he brought his cooker, and he made hot dogs every night. I supplied the hot dogs, and we right across the street from that trailer park, RV park, there on Highway 65. It used to be, there's some houses there now, but it used to be a big open field. Old guy named Elmer owned it and developed that subdivision. Well, he come out there and made hot dogs every night, and every kid in that trailer park run across the highway to eat hot dogs and give away free hot dogs. And we made coffee. I could never remember his last name. I called him Hot Dog Harold. Well, he became the chaplain at the Stone County Jail. That's where my church is, over in Galena. Of course, I live here in Christian County, but the church that I was working in, still working in, is at Galena First Baptist, right on the courthouse square. Well, I started working in the jail with him, and he got liver cancer, and they said he didn't have but a few months to live. And I went down there, and I was with the doctor and with him, and they did the operation. They were going to do some kind of a corrective surgery on some of the blood vessels or some of the tubes and stuff that my biology's bad on this point, and I have a damaged liver from a car wreck, so I ought to know this. But anyway, they were going to do something to his liver to possibly extend his life, maybe take out a bad piece of it or something. Because I know from experience you can live without a whole liver. You don't need your whole liver to live. If it's healthy, it will function. Because my liver was crushed when I was 7 years old in a car wreck. So that's what they told me. But on the day of the surgery, I went down there and I was sitting around there in the waiting room with a lot of other people. They did the operation. They opened him up. There wasn't no cancer there at all. The tumor was gone. Now, doctors, when they run up on this, they'll always say, well, we must have misdiagnosed it. Well, I saw the x-rays just like everybody else did, and there was the tumor. When they took the biopsy, there was the tumor. When they cut him open to cut out a chunk of it and try to extend Harold's life, the tumor was gone. Well, I had cancer at the same time, and I would pray, Lord, you healed Harold. Why don't you heal me too? I got bitter about it. Look at what you did for him. Why don't you do it for me? I was pretty mad. Oh, Lord, can't you see me? Can't you see how good I'm doing? That's what Jeremiah's saying. He said, you've seen me. You know me. You know my heart. Why can't you heal me too? Well, what happened is that I had an operation that laid me low for a long time. And then the cancer came back and they treated it. Then it came back again and they treated it. And they came back recently and they're fixing to treat it. But Harold's been gone for over 5 years now. He's been gone. I guess Harold's been gone 8 or 9 years. Because he died of another cancer. 3 or 4 years later, after that liver cancer, he got lung cancer. And it killed him. He died. And then I prayed with all kinds of contrition that I was sorry that I acted the way I did back in the day when it happened. Because I saw what God was doing. Yeah, God saved Harold that time. He healed him. He healed him just so everybody would know that he did it, that God did it. So that people would know that there was a Lord, that there was a God in Southwest Missouri that could do stuff, intervene, change things. God did it for his own name's sake. But he didn't do it for me, and I was mad. But you see, Harold's been dead a long time now, and I'm still here, and I've still got cancer. Again. So anytime you're saying, well, what about that guy? And what about that gal? How come you're being so good to them and you won't help me, Lord? The thing is that in our limited minds and in our frail bodies, that hurts sometimes with all this pain and sickness and death around us and this godless, graceless world that we live in. And we live among God haters day in and day out. We live among Christ haters day in and day out. We live among people who hate the Jews day in, day out. Well, it's easy for us to concentrate on now and say, why are we being mistreated? Why is this guy being mistreated? See, God sees the long view. In 2009, God saw me here today. I couldn't see beyond the next tent revival and whether I was going to be alive to make it. I did 3 tent revivals right before my first surgery when they gutted me like a fish. When we complain to God, we don't know what we're talking about, is what I'm trying to tell you. Because you don't know what he has planned for you. You don't know what his timetable is. Back when I was complaining that God skipped me and healed Harold, what I didn't understand was God was planning to take Harold home, and he gave him a reprieve. Who knows why? For his wife's sake, for Harold's sake, or like I said, just for the name of the Lord, so that people would know that he was God. Because I have preached it in many a place, many people have talked about it. There have been many people saved because of what happened to Harold. But because I'm selfish and because I'm flesh and because I'm a human man, I kept going, what about me? Like the old deal goes, what am I, a chopped liver? Harold's gone and I'm still here. Maybe I'll be an example to somebody else. I believe you need to show good form no matter what. Because we serve the Master. But thou, O Lord, verse 3, knowest me, thou hast seen me and tried mine heart toward thee. In other words, Lord, you know how I feel. Pull them out like sheep for the slaughter, talking about his enemies, the ones that are trying to kill him, the ones who make fun of him, the ones who try to put him in prison. Pull them out like sheep for the slaughter and prepare them for the day of slaughter. How long shall the land mourn? Lord, you got to do something. I pray that a verse in this prayer all the time. Listen to this. How long shall the land mourn and the herbs of every field and every field wither for the wickedness of them that dwelleth therein? The beasts are consumed and the birds, because they said, he shall not see our last end. What he's saying is, I'm watching the land just go to hell in a handbasket. Why don't you do something about it? I pray that all the time. I look at my country. I look at the people in my country. I say, God, you got to do something about this. This is horrible. We're sacrificing our children. We're giving over to every sexual perversion. We are worshiping every false god. Why don't you do something about this? Well, you know what? He is doing something about it. And he will do something about it, and I just can't see it. Just like I couldn't see that I would still be preaching 14 years later after they told me I was going to die in 6 months. You see, God knows. He knows the end from the beginning. He not only knows the end from the beginning, he declares the end from the beginning. God is sovereign. God is just. God is perfect. God is righteous. And we throw that word around loosely, but do you know what righteous means? Do you know what righteousness and God's righteousness? Righteousness means if a person is righteous, it means they always do the right thing. They never do the wrong thing. And I said, well, Jimmy, I thought you said you were righteous. I am, but only because of Jesus. I'm righteous because Jesus is righteous. I live because Jesus lives. I'm saved because Jesus saves. Don't you see? It's all Him. It's all for His glory. And so when we look around us and we worry about the rich, we worry about the evil, we worry about the wicked, we worry about the devices they are planning against us. They want to take away our rights in the courts, and they want to take away our freedom of religion. They want to take away free speech. If I live long enough, and if the rapture doesn't come first, they will haul people like me to jail. They do it in Canada and in Europe right now. If you preach against sexual perversion, if you preach against killing babies, if you preach against other gods, which are no gods at all, that are devils, if you preach against Allah and Buddhism and all this other stuff, you preach against, and Hinduism, you preach against the religions of the world. You preach against all the false gods and the devils, anything that is not the God who lives forever, revealed in the Bible as the Lord Jesus Christ. They will put people like us in jail, and they do put people like us in jail. They put pastors in jail in Canada during the COVID because they would not tell their congregations to get vaccinated like the government ordered them to. Many pastors went to jail. Beginning about, 7 or 8 years ago, in one of the provinces, they passed a law that if you preach against homosexuality or any other sexual perversion, it's hate speech. Now, this is in Canada. And so there were a group of Baptist pastors that got together. None of them would pay the fine. You had to either pay $100 fine, I think it was, or $100 fine, or spend 30 days in jail, or maybe it's a $300 fine or spend 30 days in jail. Well, what they would do is, like, one of them would preach against homosexuality and against same-sex marriage and all other sexual perversion. And then one of the government people would come in and hear them, and they would get arrested either at their house or at church the next Sunday, haul them off to jail, and take them before the magistrate, and they say, we're not going to pay the fine. So they put them in jail for 30 days. When that guy got out, then another guy, they just drew numbers, They said, okay, it's your turn. Another pastor, he would preach against homosexuality until they came and arrested him. He wouldn't pay the fine either, and then he would sit 30 days in jail. It was costing that local government or that provincial government, it was costing them a lot of money to keep those preachers in jail. So they finally just gave up and quit doing it. And they would just yell at them. That's all they do right now is yell at them. One day they will do more than yell. They will jail, they will torture, and they will kill us. Because that's what will happen during the Great Tribulation. Thankfully, I will not be here for the Great Tribulation, but we don't know when the rapture is going to come. We don't know the hour and the day. We don't know the time of the rapture. It could come at any time. It could always have come at any time. But you never know just how bad it's going to get before the rapture comes. And Jesus delivers the church out of this world. You just don't know. So you need to be prepared. So I've said these prayers that Jeremiah's saying. You may have too. Complaining about the world, about the murder of the children, about whoring after false gods, about people believing lies about God and about Jesus, and about their own selves, their own souls. I'll pick this up again tomorrow. I love every one of you. Thank you for hanging with me on this study of Jeremiah. I've always found it a fascinating book.